Once again, it is time for cutting here in the future dog enclosure. And this is really getting a mattress of grass. You might be able to see how thick this is just by how the tool lies in the grass. And on the surface it doesn't look like much, but here you see how I can get in there, and I have not reached a completely solid ground yet. So this is very positive, and this is developing very nice. Of course, I would prefer these trees now to be a lot taller, but some fixed their problem that we had because of the frost in early May. But this will come along, I have no doubt. And even that one here resprouted. But of course I do have a few dead trees, and I somehow need to replace them. But then on the other hand, what you see there where the pigs are, this is north, so the shade comes from the ones that are further in that direction, which is south. So for the purpose of having shade, it's not so bad that these trees did not make it. I guess the replacements on the south side, they will then provide the same effect that I want. The idea is that the dogs in summer, when they need to be locked up in here for some reason, let's say an event, have a place where they can be in the shade and be protected. And actually enclosing this, so finishing the fence, is one of the next things that I want to do. I am waiting for a quote by a local company to do this. Oh, and speaking about waiting, well, let's see how much water we have in this pond, which is not used for irrigation. So it has gone down quite a bit, but there's still quite a bit of water. So this is very positive. And I think this time this will not fall completely dry. But I guess that's thanks to the rainfall that we had. The ample rainfall until very late in spring. So that's very good. But still, things fall dry. And there is no way around it unless you have a closed canopy, which is what I'm trying to achieve now going forward. I just also did some additional pruning here on these trees. One motivation is so that the water from the wobbler comes a little bit further in, to the left in that case. And the other is, of course, they should have space below and not be like a bush, but instead go tall and then provide shade from above. Plus there are some offshoots. I left them alone because dense is not wrong, and let them grow a little bit. And for these guys here, I pruned a little bit more aggressively, believing that this will then cause that the tree develops more above. And after all, eventually here there will be a door, so we want to be able to come in here. Of course, the one to the left is a little bit in the wrong place, and also all these offshoots, but they can be pruned later when they are taller, and then it's okay that we can step through between these two trunks there. That wouldn't be a problem, so I don't mind. And that is how I try to grow a forest, in little steps. And I can share one thing No, two actually. So down there is a little Paulownia tree. So this is not dead. We did not lose this one. It's coming back slowly. And the fig here is already making a fruit. There you can see it. So that is very positive. And I have to say that I need to water them by hand, the ones that are here, because the soil is very compacted, so nothing gets in. And my hope is that the grasses will then take care of it, which is why I also cut this, to transform it by cutting. So there's Bermuda grass in here, but also other things. You see how these other things step by step venture out. That is what I want. But they need an extra ration. And when the irrigation for today is done, I will also turn on the irrigation for this a second time. I had to do this frequently over the last couple of weeks, basically. My assumption is that when there's a lot of vegetation, of course, all these bodies, they need water to continue growing. And so I think by cutting, I am reducing a little bit the uptake. And at the same time, create a buffer that can fill with moisture. But on the other hand, leaf surface helps with condensation. So in the very morning, we have very high humidity, even now in summer, of something like 70, even 80 degrees percent. And that is the result of the moisture that evaporated and is then coming back via condensation, which is a very important mechanism here in this area. So the more trees, leafy trees, we have, the better that is. And therefore I believe that my new direction of using a lot of these Paulownia trees is probably right. But I need to mention, Mr. Cat wants food. I will give him his ration in a second. That is why I need more water and all the other things that I mentioned. So over there will be, for next summer, another buffer tank. And then I can venture out in that direction. And of course I hope that by switching initially to mini sprinklers for the trees that only irrigate the immediate root area of the tree, I can have more trees with the same amount of water and therefore come to a closed canopy sooner. And then I can install these guys, those wobblers and the alley in between. So I keep saying this all the time because that is what I really want to achieve now, what I'm going for. And as I was speaking about shade and closed canopy, I think that's what you can see here. So despite all this watering, there's not that much going on. Of course, we have all the pioneer species that are well, but that's about it. And the Paulownias that I planted, you see, they are also not yet thriving because this berm here is dry on the inside. Someone said in the comments that swales are a tree planting system. Yeah, I can see that, but it does not work when you have these conditions as we have. Because this berm, despite the fact that left and right there was a lot of water before, over the few summer months after spring, it dried completely out because everything evaporated out of it. There is a lot of energy coming from the sun when you have a daily temperature swing of 20 degrees Celsius. That is a lot of energy. And of course, if that is able to heat up the air that much, then of course it will suck this dry. And therefore, trees that have a lot of leaf, a lot of leaf surface, are then the solution. And that is also why this one here is suffering. Of course, you could add a lot of irrigation, and then you get a peach growth and all this. Yes, that's nice. And that's what you do commercially, so I think. But I want to heal this. And therefore, this kind of wannabe food forest is not going to be a food forest unless I have a lot of these guys and make sure that they are tall and provide a closed canopy. And then we can thin it out a little bit. And in the gaps, we can then place fruit trees, like this peach. And then that whole thing, I think, will work out a lot better. And the vetiver is also a useful thing, but as you can see, its presence did not resolve the issue, because it itself is struggling and gets outcompeted by the more aggressive pioneer species that you see there. So heat alone is not what allows that vetiver to grow vigorously like it does in more humid climates. So I think the idea of growing Paulownia trees is the right one. And of course I wish that I had known this a couple of years back. But it doesn't matter. And now that I don't have any employee, I can do things on my own, at my velocity. And therefore, I think we are going to be successful eventually. Because it's a deliberate effort to do this step by step. And as my steps cannot be very, very, very big, I think that also helps to avoid mistakes that then will not work out. Because the moment you have other people there, you try to find something for them to do. And these things might not be the right ones. Of course, if the people you have are knowledgeable, then that's different. Then they will contribute with ideas. But if they expect you to tell them what to do, then you invent things. So I'm not blaming anyone, it's just explaining the mechanism, how this goes. So then you will invent things and you find work to basically utilize the labor that is available, but it might be for some stupid thing, something that's not really needed, that does not help for the, that does not contribute to the bigger picture. And therefore, being limited is actually a good thing. When you have limited resources, mostly money, you think harder. Because you can only do one thing, and so you try to find the one thing that gives you the most bang for the buck, as they say in the US. And so I'm actually happy that I don't have to find work for other people. And I do things at my own pace. Of course, some help would certainly be nice, but it needs to be of the creative type. So it needs to be someone who is, let's put it this way, emotionally invested in the project and wants it to succeed for a personal motive, which is not, I need money to pay the bills. Because then, I'm not blaming anyone, then the focus changes. And then it is more about what can I do to drain the system. Well, that's not actually the idea that people have. People don't want to drain the system, but of course they look after themselves. And that is what is a positive thing, but it is also a negative thing, because if things are not well aligned, and that requires communication and understanding and knowledge, then of course it is draining the system at the end. And nobody is to blame. It just happens. It's a natural thing. We all need to eat and feed our families and all this. So there is no problem with that. But for such a project as this, I think you either need to do it yourself, or close family, or some other type of partner who for some reason wants to participate and is emotionally invested, or you need to have a lot of money that someone or some donate, and then you can actually create a structure. But then you also need to have supervisors who will ensure that people are doing what they are supposed to be doing, because they don't know, not because they're stupid, simply because they did not learn it, they had no opportunity, they are not yet emotionally invested, they have a lot of other life struggles, and therefore it needs a supervisor. The mere presence of the supervisor ensures that people will do something that makes sense and contributes to the project. And of course the supervisor also needs to be somehow at best intrinsically motivated, and then things might work. And then we are talking about an NGO of some sort of foundation and a much bigger thing, and that needs big funding. So that's some thoughts here for the evening. It's again after sunset, but it looks nice. And I am looking forward to tall trees here. It will be very, very nice. I'm also making some plans and figuring out the order and budgets so that eventually we have this very big pond over there. Because I need more water, like I said, so that I can expand the system in that direction. I can probably grab a screenshot from the camera that watches over the pond. And yeah, it is getting lower and lower. And I think we will get by, but barely, just like last year. And last year we were irrigating another area instead of this here, but it's the same consumption. And so we're cutting it short. We will survive, but we definitely need more water, a lot more water.